Okay, guys, so last but not least, or actually part 3 of our video, we've come a long way, you guys. If we go back to our final edit, take a look at that text back there. We can see it in the background. I'm going to hit my spacebar to play, and now I have that text appearing back there. But it's a little bit bland, and I don't really like what's happening with it. So, what we can do is we can add a preset to our text to make it fly on screen or something. So, I'm going to go back to my BGW text composition and select that text layer. I think I'm going to increase the size of it. But where's my character panel? What happened to it? It disappeared. Should I panic? Should I quit and call for help? What should I do? I should go up to Window and select Character. Never panic. And I'll increase the size of that to taste. If I navigate back to my composition, I can kind of see how that text is updated. Perfect. Let's go ahead and navigate back to the BGW text. Select your text layer. Let's take a look at some presets before we apply the one we need. After Effects has millions of presets, and I probably has a million. If you go up to Animation, you can actually browse the presets. So with that text layer selected or not selected, doesn't matter. Go up to Animation and select Browse Presets. And Bridge is going to actually open up, you guys. This is another application in the Adobe family. Similar to Photoshop, Premiere Pro, this is one called Adobe Bridge. I'm using CS5, you guys are using CS4. We can see it's pretty much no difference. Once you navigate to the presets, make sure that you see the initial presets. If you didn't see it the first time, go back in and select Animation, Browse Presets. That should shift you here the second go around. I'm able to increase the size of my thumbnails. If you guys use the thumbnail slider right like this, you're only going to be increasing space between folders. I'm not quite sure what's happening with your thumbnail slider. But on the Mac, you can see there's no issues at all. I can just click and drag, folders get bigger. For you guys, there's just space and the folders stay small. But the one that you want to find is the text folder. Double click it. And then that's going to bring you to all of your text presets. If you double click the 3D text folder, very first one, double click text and then 3D text, you'll see that there's a lot of presets. There's actually 30 items right here. You can select one by clicking it once. And there's a little preview window that shows you the animation. I'm going to use my arrow keys to kind of sample these. And as I use my arrow keys, you can see what's happening. If you double click something, be careful. It's going to apply the effect to the text layer. And it's actually going to shift you back into After Effects. If that happened, then go back to After Effects and Control Z to undo that, okay? Be careful with double clicking, because if I have a text layer selected and I double click an effect, then it's applied to the layer. It's actually applied where my playhead is at. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. Make sure your playhead is at the beginning of the timeline, by the way. And again, you can see, you guys, that we have a lot of these presets. I see some of you guys dragging and dropping them. That's fine. You can just simply select it. It should update. But as you can see now, if I go back one level, and I can see all of these presets that come shipped with After Effects. One of the reasons why it costs, what, $1,800 probably, right? The client says, I love this, but I want the zoom bubble. And you say, zoom bubble? I don't know where the zoom bubble is. What are you talking about? So we can search for effects as well. I'm going to actually minimize this and navigate back to Premiere Pro, excuse me, After Effects. And let's take a look at using the Effects and Presets tab. If you don't see your Effects and Presets tab right here, you guys, simply go up to Window and choose Effects and Presets. That should populate a panel right here. Again, here's the animation presets. Actually, there's text animations. Down here somewhere, we'll see it. But for the most part, let's search. I'm going to click in here and type in bubble. And I can actually populate this window to show me all the effects that contain the word bubble. There's the one we want. Transitions, movement, zoom bubble. The zoom bubble. So if you type in bubble, you should see this populate for you. To add that effect, you guys, there's a couple things you want to make sure before you add it. Number one, make sure your playhead is at the location that you want it to be before adding the effect. I want this to be at the beginning, so I'm going to scrub my playhead back to the beginning. I'm at hour 1. And then I can simply drag and drop the effect either to the layer, or I can drag and drop it to the text. When you release your mouse, a couple of things are going to happen. The text disappears if you've used the zoom bubble. And also the effects controls populates. The reason why the text disappears because this is an animate in, like a fade in or fade up from black. And if you play it with your spacebar, you'll see that your text fades up. Look at that zoom bubble. Isn't that cool? Kind of zooms like a little bubble effect and then it sits back down. I don't know how you would create this with keyframes. We could, but you can see how cool it is to simply apply presets. And just like that, you got some animation. You're a graphic designer. No one will never know unless they use the zoom bubble a lot. And they're going to say, hey, he's using the zoom bubble. And a lot of times I can look on TV and see effects that people are using and say, oh, look at that. They're using, I can actually just see. You can too, you guys. Once you become a lot familiar, you'll look on TV, you'll see that, hey, they're using Photoshop or they're using After or something, you know, and you can actually see what they're doing. So that effect has been applied. The beauty of this is that I can now navigate back to my final edit and everything is now updated. If I scrub back and forth, look at that text back there animating. Now you can see some of the beauty of After Effects. We can add all of these elements, create some type of composition, and export it. I'll hit my RAM preview. Take a look at this. Look at that nice aqua in the back. I don't like the visibility of these objects. They're too visible, the beads. So I'm going to lower the opacity. I'll select the left one. Press my T as in Tom. T as in Tom brings up opacity. I'll lower that to taste. Perfect. I'll select the letter T to close down opacity. I'll select Kaleidoscope Right. Hit the letter T to bring up opacity. Remember, I could have dropped down all of these attributes, but I don't want to see all that stuff. I'll close that stuff up and activate the stuff that I need. Opacity is T. Go ahead and hit your T key and lower the opacity. Go ahead and hit your R key. That brings up rotation. Go ahead and hit your S key. That brings up scale. Go ahead and hit your A key. That brings up anchor point. Go ahead and hit your P key. That brings up position. So you can see you can activate these parameters individually. If you want to, you have to go in and drill down and find the transform. But a lot of times I'm only accessing one attribute, like position. I'll hit P and I can work with position. I'll hit T, I can work with opacity. When I'm done, I'll hit the T again to close down that value. If everything is open, then a keyboard shortcut to close everything down is the U key. The Uber key. The Uber. So another keyboard shortcut, you guys. And that's U with two little asterisks on top. Two little semicolon on top for Uber. Okay, I'm going to Control S to save, and we'll stop right there. We'll pick it up later, you guys. Tomorrow we'll add another blur effect to our dancers. And we'll take a look at exporting this movie. But again, this was just a basic introduction. Lesson 2 will begin to work with text, and more we'll add to our workflow. But hopefully you guys can get this basics, you guys, of creating a project, adding assets to the project panel, bringing your assets down into your composition, understanding that you can have compositions inside of compositions, and then understanding how to go into a composition, edit text and things of that nature, add properties to them, and you're well on your way to becoming graphic design artists. Okay, you guys can save this and quit it and prepare for your next lesson or next class. I'll go ahead and stop the tutorial.